In recent years, we've seen a ton of comic book and superhero video games being released with some of the most iconic characters ever created. Bringing these characters into the video game world has captured our imaginations for years. With that being said, we've made a collection of the top 10 comic-based video games you shouldn't miss. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have been a hit on TV and in movies over the years. But these heroes in a half shell actually began life in comic books. Sometimes for a game to go down as a classic, it just needs to be simple, straightforward fun. The simplified controls and side-scrolling action made for many fond memories associated with this game at arcade-based birthday parties. This game was a fun co-op experience with an all-age level of violence. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles struck a nice balance between simplified controls and slight details on the characters' moves and functionality, making each character slightly unique in the way you played with them. Mix this in with an enemy AI being challenging but not insurmountable, and the environmental takedowns, acrobatic movements, and flashy fights makes for a strongly entertaining game to play with friends. This game is so successful and without blemish that modern consoles have HD versions of it in their online stores for download. Deadpool. The Deadpool game predates the successful Ryan Reynolds movie adaptations and actually sits closer to the release date of the dumpster fire version of Deadpool, also played by Ryan Reynolds in X-Men Origins, Wolverine. Yikes. That alone should have been a warning sign to not touch the source material of Deadpool until the fire from earlier died down, and yet here we are. In true Deadpool fashion, High Moon Studios knew that Deadpool was too self-aware to lay down and die under his awful movie depiction. Self-aware games aren't all that common. With the direction the rest of the game industry was heading in, it's rare for a big budget video game to do anything other than take itself deadly serious, especially when playing with a high-profile intellectual property. This game is one of the most faithful experiences of what is to be the merc with the mouth. Complete with fourth wall breaking gameplay and a Wade Wilson that cannot feel the weight of what is taking place around him. All the characters and animations are strong adaptations of the original comics and not the watered down Hollywood versions, meaning the cartoonish humor and violence just works on every level. There is little that true Deadpool fans can stick their nose up when it comes to this game. X-Men Origins, Wolverine. X-Men Origins takes the events of the movie, adds a bunch more story around it, and puts you in control of the one and only Weapon X. For anyone that knows their stuff about Wolverine, they know that the mainstream media has nuded his character into a kid-friendly superhero, as opposed to the savage anti-hero he truly is. This game makes no apologies in serving up a most inhumane and aggressive Wolverine to his committed fans. This game is one of the most graphically violent superhero games ever, and so it should be when the protagonist is a knife-wielding, animalistic brute. A perfect example of what you get when you try not to please everybody. This game does not appeal to some and offends others, but for the true fans, they couldn't be happier with the outcome. Injustice 2. The first Injustice was a strong beginning for the series, but Injustice 2 managed to iron out the gameplay to be a little bit more fluid. It improved the overall look of the game, and the stakes feel higher in the story mode. Injustice 2 shows clear signs of time and care have been applied to the game's creation in order to make it not just one of the best superhero games on the market. With a Rolodex of DC characters to choose from along with iconic fight locations, this game pays service to its DC fanbase, offering a little something for everyone. Whether you enjoy the classics or the more contemporary and unique characters, you'll be more than happy to literally punch your friend out of this world. The Simpsons, the arcade game. Before I get into this game, I know what you're thinking. The Simpsons is just a TV show, right? You're right, but it's also been a comic series for just as long as the program has been on TV. Much like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, the Simpsons arcade game was a simplified co-op side-scroller. Released just 2 years after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the game mechanics are eerily similar. All that being said, I don't care. The Simpsons have a game and it's awesome. Choosing from family members Marge, Lisa, Bart and Homer, up to 4 players can fight across the streets of Springfield in order to save a kidnapped Maggie. This game is so unnecessary and disjointed from the original source material, and yet it works. Somehow both the show and the game complement and enhance each other. If I had to guess why the game is so successful, I would chalk it up to everyone who plays the game having grown up with the Simpsons family and wanting the opportunity to play as their favourite character while walking the streets of the town they feel they know so well. Once again, in keeping with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles formula, this game's success has seen it become available at modern console online stores in downloadable HD versions. Telltale's The Walking Dead. Based on the ongoing graphic novel and the TV series, The Walking Dead at its core is a study on characters either developing or deteriorating in a world destroyed by a zombie apocalypse. Meaning whether you make the game based around the characters from the original series, or you simply base your game around new characters in the same world, there is no harm, no foul. This means players don't know what they're in for when they start playing. Telltale's formula is best used within the world of The Walking Dead because every decision feels majorly consequential. A new roster of characters raises the stakes as everyone is expendable. Easily the most emotionally tormenting game on the list, you'll find that your investment in the story is deeply rooted in the elation of making it through challenges, and the pain of losing people in tough situations is made all the worse by the fact that everything that happens is your fault. This game hinges on what the comic does best, forcing the characters into impossible choices. An amazing story, layered characters, and diverse gameplay make this an unforgettable experience. LEGO Batman 2! LEGO have nailed the route of taking iconic properties and making them accessible to a larger audience. These games are kid-friendly, yet are still quite entertaining for an older audience, especially with some of the subtle jokes woven into certain scenes. When it comes to allowing this many characters into a game, it's hard to ignore the contribution to the series that LEGO Batman 2 makes. While all LEGO games up to this point focused on a single franchise or property, LEGO Batman 2 ditched the standard rule and brought the entire DC universe to play alongside the Caped Crusader. Sometimes you want to enjoy the characters you know and love, but in a less serious, more relaxed context, LEGO Batman is the answer. Plenty of LEGO games have expanded on this idea in subsequent installments, but as the original instigator of crossover comic book gaming, the second LEGO Batman game definitely wins the crown as the quintessential toy comic game hybrid. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. In the summer of 2010, movie audiences were treated to a cinematic adaptation of Brian Lee O'Malley's popular Scott Pilgrim comic series. While not the most commercially successful movie, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World has earned a cult status among many fans for its faithful recreation of the video game-inspired comic book world. At the same time that movie was released, gamers were also treated to a beat-em-up video game adaptation of the comics. Much like the classic style I'd mentioned earlier, this game is the most accurate recreation of an original comic, using pixelated sprite art that closely resembles O'Malley's art style and filling every square pixel of the screen with Easter eggs and references to the comic universe. The game is not only a solid adaptation, but it's also a lot of fun to play. Batman Arkham City. Batman means something different to everyone, so unlike the light-hearted nature of LEGO Batman 2, we find that Batman Arkham City strikes a chord with the fanbase that is more drawn to the gothic architecture of the animated series, the dark undertone of Frank Miller's comics, and the detective work in The Long Halloween. Improving on Arkham Asylum would be no easy feat, but Rocksteady's plans for Arkham City was clearly go bigger, go deeper, be Batman. The team took everything that made Asylum such a success and poured it into a dilapidated chunk of Gotham City, before refining and building on their work, involving many of Batman's greatest foes and improving the game's already stellar mechanics. A unique vision of the Dark Knight that encapsulates what makes Batman so intoxicating as a character. The Batman Arkham series, which wove together some of the best Batman stories ever told, is still great across the board. Batman's abilities and his combat style flow beautifully together, and allow for some extraordinary combos in the beat-em-up sections. With a fully realised Gotham as your playground, this series nailed the Batman vibe in every way. Marvel's Spider-Man. Much like Batman, Spider-Man has seen countless game adaptations over the years, and with those numbers, there are bound to be some great games and some stinkers. The latest installment in the world of Spider-Man games, simply titled Marvel's Spider-Man, is by far the best game of the bunch for the reason listed above. You want to feel in control when you swing your character through a beautifully rendered New York cityscape. Bottom line is, you want to feel like you are Spider-Man as much as possible, and this is the closest experience to date. There's a little bit of everything here for the fanbase, and on top of that, it just looks outstanding. When you swing through Times Square above the traffic, you truly feel like a superhero within a city of civilians that needs your help. You don't just feel like a character completing tasks for an unknown purpose beyond it being just the right thing to do. No, you see the beautiful city around you, and it's worth protecting. This game shows that developers were well aware of what needed to go into a Spider-Man game in order for it to be as close to perfection as possible, and the game delivers. Well, that's it for our top 10 favourite comic-based video games. If there's any others you think that we missed, let us know in the comments below.